Okay, thank you. First of all, for the invitation to this wonderful event about digital euro, which is part of our daily lives in Deloitte, Spain, since a while. Here, I'm going to talk about the model fees for CBDCs with a specific focus on digital euro, which I think it will be one of the hottest topics for this upcoming year, because as you will see now, it has a big and relevant impact for the banking industry and for the PSPs industry in general. So, okay, sorry. I will try to stick to the time slot, but feel free to ask any question during the course of this presentation. My idea was just to recap on where do we stand now regarding this topic in the context of digital euro, and then deep dive on the two potential revenue streams that have been included by the legislative proposal. And then we can just discuss what I think are some of the key considerations that the regulators and the supervisors should take into account when designing the DP model of the digital euro. Okay, so as you know, the design of digital euro is still in progress. There are many open decisions that have to be taken. Of course, all of them are open because as far as we don't have a proper and definitive legislative proposal, everything is open. But we can see that there are, let's say, that more defined design options. If we turn the circle clockwise, we can see that this will be a retail CBDC intermediated by PSD2 scope intermediaries. We will ensure for the very first moment both online and offline access, and it should be legal tender with a few exceptions. And the next bunch of criteria, which are the ones that are painted in orange, are the ones that I think are most relevant under current discussions. And one of these design options is the model fee. Because of course here the question is, okay, how are we going to offer the digital euro? Will be similar to other means of payment, will be different. How this will impact retailers, how this will impact users, and of course how this will impact the banking industry, which is in most of the EU countries the main owner of PSP solutions across EU. So according to what we know so far, the proposal and what the ECB is saying is that there will be 4 core principles for the compensation model, which is that the digital euro will be free for users when it comes to basic services. We'll talk about this later. Then it says that there should be network effects in order to create economic incentives for both merchants and acquirers. Another key principle is that there should be comparable economic incentives for issuers. And finally, the Eurosystem says that it will be at some cost, pretty much the same as it happens with issuance of coins or banknotes. So this being the context, given this context, the regulation includes 2 ways of monetizing the digital euro. One is fees that comes from transactions, as it happens with other means of payment. And the second alternative, or even if there are complementary ways, is to build on top of basic services and try to get some revenue for the offer of value-added services. This, of course, is part of the legislative proposal that was published by the Commission in June 2023. And of course, this will be subject to many amendments coming from the European Parliament or also the Council. So we cannot take this for granted, but I think it helps us to somehow structure 2 possible ways of defining the model fee of the digital euro. So let's deep dive on both of them. So on one hand, we have revenues coming from transactions. And here, and what the legislative proposal says is that the fees charged by the PSPs, which include merchant fees and also what they call inter-PSP fees, that will be the same as interchange fees. These fees may not exceed the lesser of A, the fees charged by comparable means of payments, or B, the cost incurred in the distribution of the euro plus a margin. So if we go a little bit further on these two alternatives, we can see that fees from comparable means of payments would include debit card payments. It will also include instant payments, or what they call other future payment solution, which currently we don't know how they will look like. On the other side, we have this other alternative, which are the cost incurred by PSPs when they are distributing digital euro, plus a profit margin. So when we are talking about costs here, it seems that this cost would include the cost of the most efficient PSPs, providing digital euro that represent at least 1/4 of the whole amount of digital euro distributed in the euro area in a given year. Okay, so what we expect is that according to scenarios that have been actually established by the ECB, there will be a low transactionality, at least during the first years. So it's likely that the lowest of both ceilings will be that of comparable digital means of payment. Okay. So me, I'm from Spain, so I will take the Spanish case. I will show you how the picture will look like if we compare to digital means of payment in Spain. In Spain, we have a great use of debit and credit cards, both for POS and for e-commerce. And then we have another solution, which is called Bizum. I don't know if you know Bizum, but it's a P2P solution, account to account, free for users, with massive adoption by Spanish population amounting to 22 million users, I think, which is half of the Spanish population. So, of course, for both debit and credit cards and Bizum, we have different fees that arrive. We have discount rate, we have interchange fees, we have scheme fees, which relate to Visa and MasterCard, and we have a processor fee, which is actually this activity is done by Red Swiss, which is our main processor in Spain. So when we compare digital euro with those solutions, of course, what we find is that for digital euro, there will be scheme fees, because this is pretty much one of the main reasons for launching a CBDC here in Europe is to be less dependent on Visa and MasterCard. So this fee will be part of the scheme. And then we don't know yet, but it seems that maybe there will not be a processor rate needed. So of course, this creates a buffer. According to this picture, what we can see is that if we have apparently 2 intermediaries instead of 4, of course, fees will be lower. And that's the big question. What can we do with this buffer? So there are 2 alternatives. We have the first alternative is, okay, so if we don't have processors, if we don't have schemes, let's make the fee for the digital euro a little bit lower than the one that is actually established for comparable means of payment. Or the other alternative is that this fee will be same level that current means of payment. Okay, because according to the legislation, as I told you before, it cannot be higher than these ceilings. And of course, in any of these alternatives, we have winners, we have stakeholders that are much more proactive on advocating for lower fees. But of course, here, the owners of these comparable means of payment, of course, they don't want to be cannibalized by the use of digital euro and the possibility that the retailers would prefer being paid in digital euros rather than other means of payment. So we have a map of different stakeholders, and we go through both of the solutions. If we keep same ceilings, merchants will not, I mean, there won't be any incentive in order to foster the adoption of digital euro compared to other means of payments. Banks maybe would be happy because with this buffer, maybe they will try to, let's say, be compensated by the cost of distributing digital euro. The ECB would say, okay, I am meeting my objective of issuing digital euro and be prepared and not disrupting the market. And users will maintain current conditions. If we move to the other alternative, which is a little bit more attractive maybe for merchants, of course, because they will accept a new means of payment with lower fees, which can be interesting for them. Of course, banks here, they are not happy with the solution because it will cannibalize current means of payment, including debit cards, but also solutions like Bizum, which are actually the solution that they want to foster because they are the owners of these solutions. The ECB will be happy, really happy, because the adoption will be much higher than in the previous scenario. Of course, we don't know what the ECB exactly wants, if they want to be, if they want digital euro to be like a highly adopted means of payment or not. So here we have different views depending on what announcement or pronouncement we take into account when describing the ECB position. And then the user will be also happy because maybe these savings that the retailer will bear will be translated to more interesting prices for the final user. So of course, this is, let's say, like the main question that we think the banking industry will be trying to address in the following months, and also PSPs and also retailers, which we think that haven't been so much involved in the debate so far. And depending on what kind of model fee will be designed, they could be one of the, I would say, like the biggest winners of all these projects. Regarding the second revenue stream, which will be the provision of value-added services, the framework currently says that we cannot, as banks, for instance, banks cannot offer or cannot monetize services which relate to this basic framework of services. Okay? So for all of them, which include access management services or liquidity management services and transaction management services, banks cannot receive any fee for actually performing services, which is, as you can see, there is a wide range of services under this scope. So banks here have to be, banks and other PSPs, really creative when actually thinking how to build on top of these basic services. And the ECB actually, in recent pronouncement, they are asking the private sector to please build on top of these basic services, start talking about programmable payments and so on, in order to at least make them, I think, more happy about the possible distribution of digital euro. And also because first here, the ECB wants to have banks on board. But banks so far, we think they haven't started thinking about how to build on top of this, okay? So we are helping some of Spanish banks in order to at least have this creative mindset and start thinking on how they can build on top of these services in order to provide new validated services to users, to merchants, or even to other PSPs. But still, I think this is starting now. And I think this could be a hot topic also for the next year, because this could be really a differential aspect of distributed digital euro under a just comply strategy, or moving to a more proactive strategy that could help the banks to be much more happy about the distribution of data euro. So having said what's the framework and how banks, merchants, users can be impacted by different models of fee models for data euro, I would like to highlight just 4 considerations, and I open the debate because I'm pretty sure that you might have other thoughts on this, or just to complement. So here, one specific consideration is that we don't know really clearly what's the ambition of the project. So sometimes we heard the ECB saying that they have to issue the euro to be prepared for the future. We say that buying optionality, because you never know how the threats affecting the monetary sovereignty will evolve. And I'm thinking of Libra, Facebook, other CBDCs, crypto market. And last week in Spain, we also we were attending an event from the ECB. They were saying, okay, we don't want to disrupt the market, but at the same time, we want to make the digital euro a really competitive means of payment. So I think it's not clear what we want to do with the digital euro. If we want to foster the adoption of the digital euro, or if we want just to have something prepared in case that we need to maintain the European sovereignty if one of the threats that you mentioned actually happens. Second consideration here is that for first time in the European life, we want to, at least according to legislation, have a uniform fee model. But of course, the payment systems across EU are really fragmented. We don't have a single discount rate, even if interchange fees are capped since 2015, we don't have a single interchange fee per country. And even there are many cross-country differences. So when we are actually designing the fee model, we have to take into account that we are not in the same page. All of the countries are not in the same page. Third consideration will be that, of course, we want to launch a public means of payment, but we have to be aware that this will bring or lead to the squeeze out of current EU solutions. We don't want to be dependent on Visa, MasterCard, but for instance, Bizum is a European solution built on European standards, with huge adoption by the Spanish society. And the owners of the Bizum are banks. So if you know that the digital euro will happen, and you have to decide whether you invest in your own solution, Bizum, or if you say, okay, given that this will happen, why should I keep investing in my solution while I know that something really similar is going to happen in 5 years' time? I think under this dilemma, the ones that will suffer the most are these solutions that have been built for the last 5 years, and they will be fighting against the threat of a digital euro arising in their markets that could somehow cannibalize their systems, their transactions, and make their solution not sustainable anymore. And finally, last but not least, I think that it's crucial that we need to onboard intermediaries, because they are the ones that could at least build the entry barriers or the barriers for non-adoption. We have seen this with PSD2. PSD2 was said to be a game changer for the financial landscape, but of course, banks were in the middle of the success of the PSD2, and I would say that they didn't act in a really proactive way. So if you need to have distributor engage in the project, you need to satisfy also the requirements, and maybe you can facilitate a way of reflecting on these value-added services, which doesn't seem to be seen so far. Okay. So at the end of the presentation,
Okay.
thank you very much for your attention, and please ask any question. I will be happy to discuss on the topic, even here now or in the break, because I think that we
Yes.
need the topic.
So please.